Welcome back, golfers, to the Golf Psycho Podcast. I'm Carlos Benavides, mental game coach out of Austin, Texas. Today, I'm joined by Laurie, my beautiful wife. Today, we're going to be talking about Tommy Fleetwood's persistence and what we saw a few weeks ago as far as his mental tenacity to pick up a win after 164 starts. And we felt that this would be a really, really good topic to talk about as far as mental game and the tenacity that he had to have used to achieve his win. Let's jump right into it.
Awesome. So for those of us that aren't familiar, maybe we're newer golfers, can you give us like a quick synopsis about Tommy Fleetwood and his journey?
So, like most know, a few of you might not, Tommy Fleetwood was notoriously known for having, as we've talked about now, 164 starts to finally win on the PGA Tour. This is a level of patience and a level of tenacity that is absolutely beautiful and staggering.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I wanted to talk about what he achieved is I feel like I have a good understanding of the hurdles that he had to have crossed,
Mm-hmm.
the monsters that he had to have beat, that he beat to be able to get where he got. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for those that have the kind of tenacity that Tommy showed.
Yes.
And I think what's so special about him is the amount of time, the amount of starts, the times that he had tournaments slip from his fingers, down to little putts or losing a 2-shot lead the way he did. And these were heartbreaking moments.
Mm-hmm.
So as a mental game podcast, I thought, we have to cover what Tommy has been through, especially after what he stated in the post conference after he won. And he said something along the lines of, be a good person first.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone could see his honesty, his rawness, his this honest man looking back at you, his eyes just filled with truth, filled with this, the satisfaction of what he had just done. And I wanted to cover what he had to have gone through to help inspire other golfers. It's inspired me. And what Tommy had to have gone through in his darkest nights was an overwhelming amount of doubt, an overwhelming amount of negative voices that he had to have heard in his head. I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you haven't won. And if you're so good this and if you're so good that. And again, I am just speculating, from one human to another, but I'm confident in the demons and the monsters that he had to battle, the voices in his head that are generic in all of our brains, the overcritical, egoic voices that he must have had to have pushed through. And I think that that's where the true beauty lies, is that Tommy didn't stop.
Yeah.
I don't think for someone to have hung in there for as long as he did on the stage that he's on, because we all go through our battles, but we don't go through them publicly.
True.
We don't go through them on that stage the way Tommy has, where you've had moments where he's probably read comments.
Stay away from the comments.
Online.
Yeah. He's
had, interviewers. He's heard other people talk about his situation. Maybe he's listening to this. I don't know.
And well, he knows his own situation too, right? We've all been there with whatever it may be. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that to have come out on top is absolutely mind-blowing. I actually think that many don't, they understand, but to the degree of what he accomplished, because the longer the time went on, we can look back and go, oh, well, Tommy's win was inevitable. It was always going to happen, but not for Tommy when you're in it.
Yeah.
And, am I getting further from this? Is it ever going to happen? And I just have a tremendous amount of respect for individuals that are able to power through
Mm-hmm.
the adversity that he channeled. And I think that the one thing that I have to comment on is that he didn't lose himself. We preach so much of loading the
Mm-hmm.
who am I being on the course? We are big on the who aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think here as mental game coaches, it's easy for us to stay focused on what you need to do
Mm-hmm.
and how you need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm proud that we've provoked the thought or the concept of, well, who am I being?
Mm-hmm.
And I think to watch Tommy go through the whole thing and his who, if anything, got strengthened.
Solid. Yeah.
Yeah, that he didn't lose himself through the whole process. It just strengthened
Mm-hmm.
who he already
Mm-hmm.
was.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most respectable thing of it all, because I think that for many people, it would be very easy to get bitter.
Mm-hmm.
It would be very
Mm-hmm.
easy to just give up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is one of the parts of the game that where sometimes I hear folks go, well, golf isn't a sport,
Ugh, people
or
have no idea what they're talking about. It's
or
so
it doesn't
annoying.
require, any athleticism.
Again, so annoying. I'm
Obvi-
not a natural golfer, and I know it's hard.
Obviously very wrong, but I think that there is a level of patience that golf
Mm-hmm.
asks from you. There
Mm-hmm.
is a level of tenacity that it asks from you. There
Mm-hmm.
is a level of heartbreak that it's going to show you your heart sometimes and go,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. I
Mm-hmm.
really don't care. And, oh, you were 2 shots from winning and it was,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
rip it out from you sometimes. And it can feel like golf is
Mm.
just this entity that just doesn't have any
You're right.
feelings. It can be very brutal. And I think just being able to recognize that as he won, and that was his message afterwards. I think there could have been a very Shooter McGavin, I did it. This is me. I'm the greatest. I go back to watching Bob Does Sports the other day, and they're talking about that bowler. Who
Oh
did
yeah.
I have?
Doesn't even make any sense. The sentence. What?
You
But he
know,
was feeling himself. I'll give him that.
yeah, he was absolutely feeling himself. And just to have Tommy sit there and just so humble,
So grounded
so
in who he
grounded.
is. Yeah.
And then to hear him say, like, hey, this is the first of many wins. And I
I believe him.
1,000% predict there will be more.
That self-belief.
Yeah, be careful with those people. Be careful with those that they've been through that grind, and yet, as we said, 164 starts later, 164 attempts. And at no point in time did he ever say,
I'm done.
I'm just
stopping.
done with this.
And it's something very interesting that you brought up. That level of empathy, of being able to put ourselves in his shoes and what that must feel like. I see what you mean. A lot of people would just be like, well, yeah, I'm at this highest level and he was performing well. He just hadn't met that win, right? Or what we see as, at that excellence level, even though he is excellent.
Yeah.
That amount of perseverance, that amount of self-confidence, which I also see, or self-belief, being grounded in who you are, especially with a game like golf, where you have people that just don't know sometimes will also say things in that regard too. And to be a golfer of like, oh, it's not a real sport, or you need like no athletic ability, because they have no idea what they're talking about. So why even like talk to them, right?
Yeah.
There's no point in arguing with a fool, as they say, because they don't know.
Greatest saying ever.
Like, yeah, the amount of self-belief and groundedness and of who he is as a person was very evident in that. And I think that's a really great lesson that everybody can take on and off the course.
No, absolutely. And I think that, I often kind of picture ourselves working with pros that I would love to work with at the stage of the game that they're at, because they're in unique positions that most of us as amateurs cannot relate to. We can to an extent, but the way I like to think of it is golfers it's kind of like a video game. Every level has a bad guy, so to speak. And the bad guys that you're dealing with at the level that they're at are very different
Mhm.
and much more intricate than the bad guys that we're dealing with, or what
Mhm.
I had to go through when rewriting my game.
Mhm.
Very, very, very
Mhm.
different levels. And what I acknowledge, just kind of, again, looking at Tommy and what he had to go through in his mental game, he was battling a lot of judgment.
Mhm.
He was battling a lot of outside judgment. I'm sure, his inner critique
Mhm.
was there too.
Mhm.
Um, I'm absolutely confident that he had nights where these voices were in his head, but based on what I heard him say, I can confidently say that Tommy always found himself at the end of
Mhm.
it.
Absolutely.
I
I
d-
agree.
I maybe there were, and I'm sure there were days where he felt a little more beaten up by those monsters than
Mhm.
other days,
Mhm.
but the proof is in the pudding.
Mhm.
He inevitably got what he wanted, what he set out to do, and he won
Mhm.
anyway.
Mhm.
But I have to kind of shine a spotlight on that, and forgive me, Tommy, if we're going too far, inside of your own world. But we take great inspiration from what he's achieved and how he achieved it.
Mhm.
And again, going back to the things that he had to deal with, they were very, very different from the ones that we had to deal with, right? So, um, overriding this tremendous or pushing through the experiences that he had on the course,
Mhm.
that they're so public and they're
Mhm.
so emotional, and everyone has something to say about it.
Mhm.
Again, I urge people to put yourself in those shoes and understand it from that point of view, and go, wow, everybody's got something to say about my game. And I think that, for the most part, a lot of golfers, you look and they're incredibly supportive. They're
Mhm.
incredibly supportive. Tommy has been a fan favorite for many, many, many golfers. And I think that this only boosts the fandom. This only makes you love Tommy that much more.
Yeah.
But because of that, I felt that, today we needed to shine a light and have a Tommy day where it's just like, hey, man, I see you. I recognize you. I see what you had to have gone through, the lessons, the battles, everything that led up into this point. And again, who he is as a person, not just a
Mhm.
golfer, but
Mhm.
the person that persevered. And I just absolutely am always, inspired by people that can push and push
Mhm.
and push until they get what they want. And it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. So what are the things that we can take away from Tommy to improve our golf mental game and our life off the course?
That I think the biggest lesson is it it requires no talent to judge yourself.
Yeah.
It requires no talent to judge yourself. And it is Tommy, his who to override that judgment was a spiritual practice.
Mm. Mhm.
There had to have been a great amount of observing this chatter in his head, this noise,
Mhm.
this inner
Critical
this
voice.
inner critical voice
Mhm.
that he was hearing and push through anyway.
Mhm.
So the big lesson would be, it's easy to get off the course and judge yourself. It's easy to beat yourself up. But can you see the higher truth? Can you load your who the way we've talked about in previous pods? And if this is the first episode you're listening to, you must go back and listen from the beginning, start at episode 1. We've designed this podcast to be able to get you in order in the ways that we would change mental game or change your game in a way that's digestible. And that's because we do give a lot of information,
Mhm.
but go back and listen to especially the episodes on who you are and loading the who. Very, very, very important. So in the case of Tommy, that is a great moment to recognize, because we are big on the who aspect, and for him to come out and say, hey, the person first above
Everything
everything, and
else.
to have had that teaching from his family and from his dad, that is an absolutely beautiful thing. So just taking the lesson from Tommy and going, hey, judging myself is going to be a thing, or being harsh with myself, or not getting what I want, or even going through the whole like, that's not fair. That's not fair. When is it going to happen for me?
Mhm.
All of those feelings. But feeling like, hey, well, giving up isn't a choice. I'm going to keep going no matter what. And I'm just not going to stop. And
Mhm.
if I get what I get one day, fine. If I don't, I don't. But you're never going to see me stop,
Right.
and I think that that is something that, all golfers, all people, all of us who love this game
Mhm.
can identify with. And if we're going to get better in our own games, we have to have that attitude that obviously Tommy has used to be able to push past and arrive at a new
And
place in
keep
his
going.
career. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think
Absolutely.
had he not, and I guarantee you if he was sitting here, Tommy could tell you easily, oh, I could have gone the other way. I could have just given up. And I'm sure there were many times where he felt like that was the next step, or,
Mhm.
is this ever going to happen for me? But that, I think, is, to me, his ability to probably override judgment, going back to your
Mhm.
question, has got to be
Mhm.
the biggest thing.
Yeah. And I could be wrong, but I'm sure there's also part of him that's probably very good at looking at outside looking in terms of perspective of, yeah, maybe I haven't won, but look at where I am. This is
Mhm,
my job. I'm still doing really, really well,
mhm.
which
Oh my
the
gosh.
outside looking in is always easier, but sometimes when we're in our own box, that can be tough. So I think it sounds to me that he's probably very good with that as well, or has people in his life that can offer him that insight so he can step out and see the big picture
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah, it's like we talked about in the previous episode, right? It's really easy to focus on everything that's going wrong. Can you
Mm-hmm.
focus on what's going right? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
so glad that you mentioned that, because that was evading me. And there had to have been a plenty of times where Tommy decided, you know what, I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
focus on this. And that kept him
Mm-hmm.
going, because as you said, it didn't mean that he wasn't incredibly successful. He's
Mm-hmm.
incredibly
He
successful,
is. He
making
was.
a
Still
handsome
is.
living, taking care of himself and his family. And still, I'm sure there had to have been part of him going, hey, at the end of the day, I'm still living the ultimate dream,
Yeah.
getting paid to play golf and traveling the world and meeting
Mm-hmm.
different people. And here I am, so there had to have been this recognition of all the right that was going on in
There
his life.
has to have been.
Hmm.
I can't, I mean, to be still successful at that level, how could there not be?
Hmm.
But I do recognize that sometimes that's harder when you're in it. So either it's the practice that he's developed on his own, or he has also people on in his life or family or team that are also really good at showing that
My next thought,
perspective.
yeah, that he had to
Yeah.
have had a tremendous amount of support system around him, and the family, the people that loved him, the people that are
Hmm.
closest to him.
Because it's a truth too.
Mhm,
That is very true. Yeah, you might not have won, but you're doing really, really well. You've
mhm.
made a career for this
Yeah,
out of yourself, with
and,
yourself.
I'd love to ask him if he was here. I think as a coach looking at his skills, and I think if I got to know him even better,
Well, get to know him, period,
get to
because
know
we
him,
don't know
get to
him.
know him, period. Um, I could be wrong, and Fleet, if you're hearing this and if you could ever answer this question, but, I feel like his attitude is so good,
Hmm.
and his mental game skills are obviously really, really good. And we're going to go into, the other parts of the mental game. But just that, I'd love to know if he always thought, or if he always felt, or if at all, that his win would be inevitable. That
I'm
he
sure.
knew that he was always coming towards it. I'd love to know that. And in my eyes,
I
it
hypothesize.
always was.
Yes.
It always was.
Yes.
And then just to kind of chat about, um, if there were some mental game skills that did let him down on the course in these moments where it mattered the most.
Mm.
Was there some nervous system deregulation that occurred,
Hmm.
that those last few moments, as we've seen many times in many
Hmm.
golfers. I can confidently look at them and go, oh, this is a nervous system thing, when they go and they start doing
Hmm.
some wacky stuff, right?
Hmm.
Or the short putts get missed, or the funny stuff that they don't normally
Or
do.
the last day is off when
Hmm.
like the previous
Yeah.
but zillion days had been really well.
So, I would love to know. That would be just fascinating to find out. What were the mental game strategies that you worked on? What were the mental game things that you needed a little bit of help on? Did you just keep doing the same thing?
Yeah.
Was it always strong? Was it just, you know,
It just
was it
happens.
just the roll of the dice the way it happened that
Yeah.
day, and you felt perfectly fine? Because
Hmm.
that's a thing too.
That especially at his level where he's still playing well, like
Hmm.
that can't be. Oh, it's not like he wasn't playing well or anything like that. He still was, still placing. So yeah, you're right. It could also just be that, where sometimes that is just life and percentages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think just to look at the mountain that he climbed, that many starts, over 160 rounds.
Yeah.
That is
Mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing.
It's inspiring.
Yeah. And I know a lot of golfers see that number and they go, wow, you all understand. You understand what he had to have gone through and how big this achievement was, and how, that story might even be better than, the guy who wins all the time, the Scotty wins that, to just rack up every week, and I think that, I think that's why even in Tin Cup, we identify with what he does at the end, because it was bigger than a win. It was solidifying his name in a story. And, we as humans love story.
We love legacy.
Yeah. And that's the kind of story that you can get behind, when you've got a player like Tommy, who everyone says, oh, then this man deserves it. He deserves it. And, again, where you have this honest mirror that golf is, where it's just like, it doesn't care, it's indifferent. As beautiful as it is, it's indifferent, and it can be brutal, and it doesn't care about your feelings. And so when it gives you what it gives you, it's honest and it's true. And but yeah, I think that it's really nice to cover this aspect of a player, and we're going to continue to do this. And if this is the kind of content that you like, feel free to let us know. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. Your support means the world to us. It allows us to keep making these videos. It allows us to keep pumping out content. And we want to have a relationship with you guys, right? So be sure to comment. Don't be shy. Anytime you comment, it supports us. It boosts the algorithm. It helps the show get out to more and more players. And it helps Laurie and I achieve our dream of doing this completely and totally full time, right? Yay. So we're not going to stop doing this. We're going to keep at it, but your support means the world. And as far as breaking down players' mental game and what's going on, and I know that it's been roughly about a month now, or we're approaching a month since Fleet's win. But to us, it was still something that we wanted to cover. And, we didn't go too deep, but we wanted to at least kind of touch on our favorite things as far as, what we saw in his story on the mental side.
Absolutely. Yeah. And those takeaways. Yeah. But if there's anybody else that you would like us to have a chat with or about in terms of their mental game, whether it's another player, another like tournament or something on that end, maybe even it's from a movie.
Yeah. But to sum it all up again, before we go, Fleet's win was spiritual. 1,000%, you guys. Go back and listen to our pods. Go back and listen to the first few episodes, especially the episode where we discuss loading the who and, is this game spiritual? And, I could safely argue that every single human side of us going through what Fleet had gone through would have wanted to give up, or perhaps would have. And, my hat's off to Fleet. I recognize you. I see you, brother, for that spiritual component of yourself that had to override all of the negative stuff that you were going through, the self-judgment, the judgment of others, and still come out on top. I think that is the grand thing that we wanted to recognize, and just hopefully that we can all take a lesson from having that kind of tenacity, and kind of feeling like giving up just isn't an option at all. So if there's something that you're out there dealing with and you feel like you've been punching at it and trying to knock it out, I hear you. I feel you. Keep at it. We're always here to support you, and don't give up. Be like Fleet. And once again, if there's anything else you want us to cover in the future, feel free to let us know. We want to hear from you. And thank you so much for tuning into The Golf Psycho.
Bye.